Hello and welcome to Woman Up podcast. We are very happy to be launching our fourth series, and this comes to you from our new artistic platform, Procreate Project. Woman Up is a podcast that speaks to and about artists, academics, writers and activists, midwives and more, and who are also mothers, parents or carers, and all who identify as women or non-binary. We interview those hoping to inspire or those being inspired, those challenging ideas and ideals, questioning assumptions and provoking social change. Hello and welcome to Woman Up. I'm your host, Susan Merrick, and for the first episode of this relaunch, we're interviewing Annya Sand, co-founder of the WAAW London, WAAW, a new initiative aiming to create more representation for female artists, inviting London's art galleries and non-commercial art institutions to exclusively showcase female artists during the week of the 8th to 15th of June. Hello and welcome, Annya.
Hello, thank you very much for including us in your podcast. Thank you.
Oh, we're very, very pleased to have you. Thank you for coming. Just a little extra intro. I want to apologise for my voice today. I'm full of cold, but I was so excited. I really wanted to get this podcast recorded anyway. So listeners, apologies for my strange sounding voice, but it's the nature of things as we are. So Annya, I'd like to start off, please, by asking you about WAAW. Is that how you pronounce it, WAAW?
Well, yeah, I mean, everyone I speak to pronounces it differently, but ultimately it is WAAW London, and it is Women Artists Art Week London, abbreviated as WAAW London.
Okay, excellent. Could you please tell me a little bit about the aims of WAAW London and what your personal drive was to make that project happen?
Of course. So WAAW London was born out of my studies at Central St. Martin's, where I dedicated a year to thinking about representation within the art world. It is also very much based on my personal experience as an artist, practicing artist in London of over 18 years. So what I tried to do in St. Martin's is to find a solution to the representation or lack of representation towards female artists, and to find a sustainable solution as well, which will cost no money, but will take place. And that's why we decided to hold it during 1 week and have all the galleries showcasing female artists simultaneously at their own premises, to sort of create that weight of a movement that is easy to join and easy to sustain in the long run. So one of the aims of WAAW London is to actually raise awareness about the lack of representation for female artists and to take active steps to ensure that commercial and non-commercial art institutions engage with these artists more readily than they currently do. Because as good as it seems, the situation is frankly quite dark and embarrassing if you look at the statistics.
So on the discussion of statistics there, I'm really interested in that. We've had the Gorilla Girls speak on the podcast before, and obviously they, for many decades, have looked very much at percentages and statistics of the representation of women and women of colour in art galleries. So I wanted to ask, how many galleries that had no fair representation before have agreed to participate this time round, or for the project?
That who are known for their non-representation?
Yeah.
Not many, unfortunately, which is quite embarrassing, trying to promote the art world and advance it and face with these issues in the 21st century. Not many. So the majority of galleries that have agreed to join our movement were the ones who were already trying to promote female artists. But saying that, I had a lot of incredible women supporting me from the beginning. Obviously, Diana Gravina, as you know, Georgina McPherson played a very instrumental role in the progress of building WAAW London. Kate Gordon from Awita. Awita is an incredible organization who just, I emailed to them and they were so ready to help. And particularly Marcel Joseph, she was fantastic. And I had such huge support from her, never meeting the woman. The next day I was CC'd in like 20 emails where she called spreading awareness about WAAW London and reaching out to different galleries, asking them to join the movement, which felt quite overwhelming in a very sort of positive way. And also people like Dr. Kate Macmillan, who I approached, as far as I can remember, just via Instagram, who agreed to share with her statistics and share her views on the subject.
Anya, how have you chosen the galleries then and the organizations? Is it, as you say, through a kind of word of mouth process to start with, or?
So yes, it was everything at once. Basically, I decided to use whatever works. I approached galleries who I knew represented female artists in the past. Word of mouth, approaching organizations like Awita, Marcel Joseph Project, who I knew support women in the arts. Talking to people that I know, approaching galleries. The funny story, one of the galleries, I'm not going to name it, they were saying that they have an exhibition of a different artist already planned for this year, but the owner of the gallery I know, and I said, look, you have two girls, so who knows, maybe they would want to be artists, and by joining us you will provide the future for them in pursuing arts. So I had to choose any tool I had to try and convince the galleries. The problem that I saw a lot when approaching galleries is they didn't want to join until I got some institutions on board. So Somerset House was quite amazing in supporting us, and they were quite excited about the initiative and enthusiastic from the first time we spoke about it. Palin House Gallery, they were quite supportive as well, and they're trying to expand the collection of works by female artists in their institution. So once I had big heavyweights, as you call them, then the galleries followed, which I found upsetting, but also I guess that's the interrelated nature of the art industry that I had to accept.
I think you've kind of covered my next question, which was going to be, what's the response been like? I think you've covered that. So overall, the galleries that you've got on board and the institutions you've got on board, you think were already sensitive to this, so they are supportive of it? Or do you think you've got some galleries on board who were not necessarily thinking about improving their representation?
I think most of them were already, as you say, sensitive to the subject. But others didn't even think about the subject. For example, so many galleries told me that they simply don't have enough of works to showcase for 1 week of female artists, which I found again, shocking, but real. Others just didn't think, and they would say, well, we have already planned an exhibition and it will be a male artist. But I knew that they have space downstairs. So I said, well, why don't you show your female artists downstairs during the week? Which they kindly agreed to. But I think the reason why it just did not cross their mind. Others just simply believe that female artists don't sell and they don't want to risk it. But we are trying to use, I don't know, it doesn't sound very nice, but we're trying to use social pressure to encourage galleries to take part. So whether using institutions' influence or other galleries joining and using the numbers, try and persuade galleries that don't particularly support the cause or believe in the cause, exhibit just because they will be sort of not fashionable, but I don't even know how to explain it. They'll be sort of doing what everyone else is doing. And that way, yeah, go on.
I find it frustrating, but not surprising, and incredibly interesting that galleries still feel that perhaps female artists, there aren't enough, which is ridiculous because there are so many of us and have been for decades, that we don't sell. Yeah, it's well done for what you're doing. Amazing. You've talked a bit about the resistance that you faced. What other challenges have you come across in terms of the resistance? So what have galleries been saying is the reason that make it difficult for them to have a more representative program, more inclusive program?
Well, I think they don't want to obviously appear sexist, so they don't really tell me the truth, and I just have to second guess. So accepting that, and so I'm trying to accept it, and my co-founder Catherine Hunt also too, and just take it for what it is and just move forward. And for the ones who don't believe in it, provide the confidence to believe in it. And actually, the initiative, there is no competition. For them, it's a win-win situation. The more galleries show female artists, the more of a norm it will become, and the more collectors will invest into female artists as a result. So there is no competition for them, and this is what we're trying to tell them and sort of give them the confidence to take part.
What's your personal view, Annya, in terms of what the issues are? And do you think that what power do you think that this initiative has to change or to make the changes that we want?
Well, ultimately, I think it's the long-standing gender bias. That's all that it is. That's been there for centuries. And that directly affects the industry. It affects, unfortunately, in a bad way, women's mental health, financial self-sufficiency, choice of whether to have or not to have children, family balance, and I can go on with those layers of the cost of this gender bias. But I think the timing is very good now. I think that more and more galleries start supporting us. They just need to see that a lot of female artists are not just incredibly talented, but they also sell. And once they see that, things will move a lot faster.
When you're talking to galleries about the women artists that they show, or potentially looking at, I guess this is going to lead hopefully to galleries looking to a wider net of women artists as well that they may take on. Are you also asking for fair representation of women of colour?
Oh yeah, we this is the whole point of WAAW London. It's important that we don't discriminate against anyone, women of color, as long as they're women or female identifying artists. This is our aim, is to promote all female artists. And the more diversity I think we have, the stronger the message will become of WAAW London, and the faster we'll get to what we want to get. Ultimately, it's for female artists to be exhibited all over London, and hopefully, as a result, all over the world, all of the time.
That brings me on to a question I had, because I think there's often a fear of when you have an initiative that is, a day or a week or a month, does that make those galleries and institutions kind of feel let off the hook the rest of the time? Or will you be asking galleries, will you be challenging them to improve their representation, increase their representation for the rest of the year as well?
So some, for example, Masterpiece Art Fair, they are starting the fair after the WAAW London week finishes, but they will still host a talk during the art fair, taking us around the galleries that represent female artists. So we are trying to prolong it for as long as possible by doing sort of little talks, hosting breakfasts. We're now currently negotiating with the auction houses to host breakfasts or lunches where they can talk about their collections of female artists, sort of to keep it going throughout the year. And also to encourage galleries to at least exhibit them for months or two, not just the week. It's just 1 week is where we want it to be sort of simultaneously and make a statement. But we're pushing galleries who said, oh no, we have something else planned, which is fair enough. But then we say, okay, but when you have a female artist, can you please host a talk about the importance of female artists? And we can record it, we can advertise it on our social media and so on and so forth. So if a gallery says no to us, we are not letting them off the hook that easily. And I feel that we have a right not to. So, yeah.
Do you feel that you've got enough support for the project so far or going forward? Or if not, who would you be reaching out to for more support?
Well, I have support in terms of people around, people who are supporting. They're really, truly supporting. Then we have interesting sort of results of support, like restaurant, the main restaurant who is hosting us tomorrow to talk about the issues and to launch the project. We have Jean Melefera, Jean, who was sponsoring us because the owner's wife is an artist, so they can relate to the issue. But who I really want to get involved in this are the institutions and big galleries like Gagosian Gallery, because I know if somebody like that gets involved, the rest will follow and it will make our work much easier, because now we are working incredibly hard day and night, just two people. So it's very challenging in terms of time and managing our own careers. As you know, I'm an artist, I'm a mother, but also keeping this going and pushing. So we accept any help. and we want institutions on board.
As part of your initiative, so you've already mentioned like one of the major challenge is the gender bias that we face in our everyday life anyway, and how that affects how galleries and institutions work and run. Will you be, as well as ensuring to start with, getting that representation there, will you also be challenging galleries and institutions in terms of the structure, the way that they are run, which has an impact on how many women artists feel able to approach such spaces, or how those spaces are inclusive in terms of how they work, enough that the representation is wider?
Ideally, it does make sense. We have discussed it many times. I even had a meeting in the parliament. I went there to sort of discuss that issue, because majority of artists, women or men, are self-employed, which makes it very challenging to address the issues of being paid or paid maternity leaves and so on. So this is one of the issues we are trying to tackle, but this will involve policy changing, which is something I think I don't have enough experience with, and I don't have the power. However, by reaching out to politicians, we are hoping to somehow address it. Also, in the long term, we will discuss with the institutions who are involved the way that female artists are participating, and whether or not they need assistance with childcare and so on and so forth, because it is a problem and it is an issue and it's there, and it needs to be addressed. But this is sort of a long-term goal that hopefully we'll get to and get some changes done, because if you think about it, that's how I think about it. We bring up next generations of men and women, and those kids growing up having unhappy, depressed, financially restrained mothers ultimately affect their mental being, their mental health, their outlook. So, and as a result, when they grow up, those issues affect the society, and not just the 50% of our female, but also the rest, the men as well, because they are brought up by, well, mostly, not all the time, but mostly by women. And how important it is to have mothers who are artists, happy doing what they love doing, rather than unhappy, restrained, and desperate in a way that they know that if they pursue art, they will not be able to feed their kids and provide for them. This is the reality, just how it is. And as an artist, I mean, mental struggles that we face and how sensitive we are to them is quite, it's a different subject to discuss, but it is an issue that is there, and not talking about it and not addressing it is not doing any good for anyone. So by improving the situation of female artists, we're ultimately improving the generations that are being brought up by them, therefore improving our society's mental state and outlook on what's fair and what's not.
That's really clear, Annya, and lovely to hear your personal perspective on that as well. I think it's really important. Do you have anything else that you wanted to share with us about the initiative, about the launch, about the week itself?
So the launch is going to be tomorrow, which shows the 8th of March because it is an International Women's Day, and we thought it would be important to emphasize that.
So I think we're hoping to launch this episode on the same day. So if you're listening, it should be the 8th of March, which is hopefully when people are listening.
Hopefully. And please spread awareness. And if you have any questions or ideas, please reach out to us either via social media at WAAW London or via our website, wowlondon.com, which is currently being improved. And I'm working on installing a map into it where we will put sort of all the galleries that are taking part, what they're going to have, talks that they're going to host. So it will be user-friendly and easy to follow. So just join the movement and please support us. And please understand that it's not a selfish deed, but it is something that should have been tackled a long time ago. It has been tackled, but now I think it's a great time to really address it and actively change the situation.
That's fantastic, Annya. Thank you so much. And so we'll have the information about WAAW, WAAW. I'm spelling it only because I know of the other organisation, WAAW, as in WOW. So WAAW, WAAW in London, and we'll put the information about this project, this initiative, on the podcast notes and on Procreate project website, so you can see where to follow Annya and Catherine and their work. Thank you so much for speaking with us, Annya. It's been really amazing, and I hope the launch goes brilliantly, and I will be watching to see what happens as well and giving support from my end.
Thank you so much for your support and for including us into your podcast. It does mean a lot.
Thank you for listening to Woman Up. Woman Up is produced by artists Amy Dignam, Susan Merrick and Procreate Project. For more episodes, find us on www.procreateproject.com or listen to us on all of your usual podcasting platforms.